Hello. Welcome
Hello.
back. Nice to see you again, Theora.
Yeah, same. Thank you everybody at home for joining us. What are we doing today, Kaitlynn?
We have a super special video.
So special.
Like, everyone's been begging for this. No, they haven't. Not at all.
Literally no one.
No one has asked for it. Today, we are going to be talking about the best show in the world that has no issues whatsoever.
None.
Glee.
Glee.
So, when was the first time you watched Glee?
I watched it since the beginning. Like when it first aired. Because like this show sounded so appealing to me. Because I was like, oh, it's about like, I didn't know what a Glee Club was, but I got from like the original trailer, from what I can remember, I got like theater club vibes. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like high school theater. Like that's awesome. We never get to actually see into that world. Like that'd be super fun. Let's do it. Because like I grew up watching musicals. Like I'm from New York originally. I used to go to Broadway as a kid. Like, so I love musicals. I was like, yay, finally, like a TV show about that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I was watching it from the beginning, and boy, did this show evolve over time, which we will get into, but like, yeah, like it very much appealed to me from the very beginning.
I think I was in elementary school when it started.
Yeah, I can't remember time periods, but yeah.
It was 2009. No, so I was just entering middle school. And so I think I was like slightly too young right in the beginning, but then I was a theater kid. So I don't know how I never saw the show until the pandemic. And the whole reason,
Dang.
yeah, it took me forever.
That's weird. Oh, I thought you would have seen it earlier, because it's like, this
No.
is your jam, man.
I know.
Oh,
And
no.
I watched the first, okay, so a lot of things happen like this. I have to be like fully committed to watching something to actually get into it, because a lot of times I'll watch the first episode and just stop because I think I was like forcing myself to watch it. I can't force myself to watch things.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work. But I was obsessed with Melissa. Was is past tense. Let's just say is, because every time I see her, then I become re-obsessed. I think I tried watching it for her, but I knew she wasn't in it till the fourth season, so I didn't get past the first episode. It's like, screw it, I'll just watch the fourth season. So I watched the 4 and half of 5.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I had no idea what happened other than 4 and half of 5. Then one day I was like, I guess I watched the whole thing. And then I fell in love with the show. This was 2021, the summer of 2021. Yeah.
So you started watching it during the Glee Renaissance that was happening, basically.
Yeah, but I was actually not aware that everybody else was. Everyone else watched it, and then a few months later, because some other things happened in real life, and I think it was like right before the year anniversary of Naya that I actually like fell in love with the show, and I fell in love with Naya. She's amazing. She is. And this whole time, I will not say anything past tense with her because I refuse to. Everything is as it should be in my mind.
Yeah.
But anyway, this show made me very, very depressed, which is weird for a comedy. So, right now...
The show made me very angry. So while you were discovering Glee during the Glee Renaissance in the lockdown, I was revisiting trauma from this show that I had suppressed with, like, there's, like, podcasts coming out about it, and I was, like, listening. I was like, oh, God, yeah, like, you're expressing all of my feelings that I've had pent up about this show, because, like, damn, the trauma. But, so, we'll get into all that. So, I'm glad. The Good, Bad, and the Ugly that is, or was, Glee, which was, like, it was a worldwide phenomena, and, like, we'll get into it. It spiraled out of control.
I'm glad that you watched it as it came out. So I have no idea what the world was like when Glee was airing. I barely heard about it. But it also depends on when you watch it in life. So I have different experiences from you.
Yeah.
Between age and what was going on in the world.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Why, like, at the time, it was a big deal for a lot of reasons, and we'll kind of jump into that when we like jump into the show.
And throughout this episode, maybe 2 episodes, because depending on how much we scream about the show, that might be multiple parts. We'll have compilation clips that we found on YouTube, and Patreon, you'll see us react to it. YouTube, we're going to cut most of it out, just because it'd get too long, and I don't want to deal with copyright, because, ugh. But since we're LGBTQ...
The audio version will be like the YouTube version.
Yes.
Okay. So full reaction / a trip down memory lane with YouTube videos will be available on the Patreon. You'll get a little taste if you're watching on YouTube or listening on audio podcast.
Also, especially for audio, there's some things that are confusing, but we'll try to read as much as... The first video, since we're an LGBTQ plus media podcast, I titled this section, Everyone is Gay.
Perfect.
So what do you think? Is everybody gay on the show?
No, I don't think everybody's gay on the show. I think there's a lot of insanity that went on in the show as the show evolved over time. And like, there are other podcasts that have like super gotten into detail with like Glee, but like one of the big problems with the show is there's so many writing inconsistencies. And so there's no like consistency with like characters from like episode to episode. So like all their plot lines get all kinds of weird. So yeah, I can see like if you really search through the whole show, you could find instances of everybody acting really gay when they may not be a gay character, because like it's almost like the writers didn't talk to each other when they wrote the show. And so it is like it's such a hot mess. Like they will have a whole episode dedicated to one thing about one character, and then the next episode completely forget about it and like never bring it up again.
That's
so
true.
Like,
and then they'll contradict themselves later.
Correct. Yeah, it's like they didn't talk to each other. So yeah, you can have somebody be like, yeah, I think Artie's fruity, and like have an off line that he has, and then never touch it ever again. So like maybe they were, but maybe they weren't, because the writers on the show did not talk to each other.
Well, speaking of that, I guess we'll skip down a little bit, because we have a video just for that.
This show is such a disaster sometimes.
Okay, history of Run Joey Run first.
So the history of Glee and why it just gets more and more ridiculous over time is like, if you may not be aware, like if you came in during the renaissance of Glee during the pandemic and you're like, whoa, this show, you have to understand that this show was like novel for its time. So first of all, it was a syndicated show, so it was on broadcast TV on Fox Network. That's who had Glee, which doesn't make a lot of sense if you've heard the term Fox, because Fox as a company is very, very right-wing conservative. So this show was on a right-wing conservative network, which is crazy to begin with. And it had...
How that even happened. Huh? How did that even happen? Did the jokes go over their heads, or...
I don't know. That I don't know. But yeah, and so it had openly queer characters in prime time, which was very rare at the time, especially on this network. So it was a huge deal. And after its first season, it blew up. Like, this at one point in time was the most popular television show in the world, like globally. And it very much got to the creators' heads. And instead of making it about the show, they started doing things like trying to sell songs on iTunes. And just the show became less about what it originally was, which was a satire. And everybody forgets it's a satire. So it's making fun of this theater culture and like of children like growing up in that culture. That's really what it is. And it started taking itself way too seriously as a television show and was trying to tackle like teenage issues or real world issues. Like We Get Unique later, and it's about like, you know, being trans, and then or about like homelessness. There's one whole episode dedicated to like Sam and his family struggling and homelessness. So they tried to like take themselves way too seriously and like tackle big topics, but they forgot what they were, which is a satire about basically whatever culture they were in, which is America, middle of nowhere. Like Ohio is like a middle state in America. If you're not familiar with America, I wish good for you for that. America's a mess, but it's supposed to be like, you know, and then kids, small town, have dreams of getting out, going to the big city, that kind of stuff. So it's supposed to be like not being serious about that, but being a satire about that. And then you have like the burnout Mr. Shu, who like forego that dream to like be a teacher for whatever reason. And like it's supposed to be making fun of itself, not taking itself too seriously. So as it started taking itself too seriously, as the show was like gaining popularity, it got way too full of itself. And like again, that's where you started getting all these inconsistencies that were happening. The show was trying to make money off the... So what they would do is they would essentially, like, the Glee Club would do a cover, and then they would sell that song on iTunes. This is before, like, free streaming was more mainstream, and they would sell it, so they were making a ton of money off that. So then the show became less about the show and more about, like, having hit songs, like, centered around hit songs they could sell, which is why as you watch the show, there becomes more hit song. It's just, like, centered around putting hit songs in the show so they could sell it. So it just lost its way. And as it started doing that, it started declining in popularity to the point where nobody talked about the show anymore because it got so bad. Whereas it used to be a show that like rivaled the Super Bowl as opposed to like how many people were watching this show. Like it was the most watched television show, and it just lost its mind as it, you know, it's a great metaphor for capitalism. It lost its mind, and then people are like, this isn't what I signed up for, and stopped watching it. And it just fizzled out. So that's Glee. So Run Joey Run is like the most quintessential Glee thing on Glee, because that is what Glee actually is. Like, it's Rachel basically trying to make something she thinks is super cool, which is a music video with like all the guys that are into her, that she's into, and she thinks it's really cool, and it's like it's like edited like the way like somebody with minimal technology would have, like an 80s edit kind of thing. And she's so proud of this, and everybody's like, what are you doing with this, Rachel? This is trash. We hate this. But like that's what Glee was. That's the most Glee thing on Glee. And like they keep making fun of it. Again, because it's a show that makes fun of itself. That's part of the satire of it. And they keep bringing it up because like the audience hated it, but like I think the audience forgot, and Glee eventually forgets what Glee actually was, because it loses its mind. And yeah, it just became a way to sell iTunes songs over time, and just that's why it just stopped making sense. And Rachel became way too serious about her. Like everybody becomes way too serious about themselves, and it's like that's not what this show actually is. Run Joey Run is what the show actually is, but they constantly bring it back and make fun of it because like everybody forgot what Glee was, basically.
I think that makes sense. Sorry. For why I do like 4 and 5, because that's what I started with. So those were the more serious seasons. So I'm used to Glee as so it can never be serious, but no, it's a more serious show, which is why when I went back to the first, like I tried the first episode first and then it just didn't work. And so I guess I get why, that's also why I have a different viewpoint of the show in general, because I started in the middle.
Yeah, you started in the middle, and like for me, 4 is when I stopped watching, because 4 repeated what was happening in the first season, but made it too serious, and I was like, and it fucked up a lot of shit that I was mad about, and I was like, I'm not watching this. What even is this show anymore? And if you weren't watching it live at the time, like it was a big deal that was even on TV, and Fox of all things. So that made it more of a like cultural phenomenon that was happening, and it was making like theater more mainstream. People were like, yeah, this is actually pretty cool and a pretty hard thing that people are doing, and it made it more relatable to people who didn't really know what theater culture was. Or I didn't know what a Glee club was, but I knew what theater culture was. So it was very revolutionary at its time, but then like, yeah, 4 years later, it went off the rails, and it was just trying to make money, and I couldn't with the show anymore.
So basically, I would say there's like 3 or even 4 different eras of Glee, because halfway through 5, they get rid of half their cast, which I'll talk about later again. It's just, that makes no sense. And then 6 is a brand new show in itself again. And 6,
yep,
I stop at 6 because I could barely get through it. Yeah, they took Britney out of 6, and I was just
when are we going to go through the... When are we going through the eras of Glee?
Maybe in the next part, like when we talk about the new kids and stuff, because we'll just... Okay. But do you want to talk about your favorite character right now?
My favorite character?
Mm-hmm.
I have two favorite characters, Santana and Sue.
Yeah,
those are my
the
two
second
favorite
one.
characters. Sue.
Because
Sue
we're
is
still
best
in the problematic section of Glee.
Oh, is that what we're doing? Okay, I didn't know. There's so many problems with Glee. Most of them are season 4 for me. But I don't think Sue is not problematic to me. Sue is like the rational person in the room, because this, again, it's a satire, which is like over exaggerated in certain aspects, and Sue is usually like the voice of reason, who's like the only person who calls Mr. Shu out for being the villain of the show. He's the villain, okay? Like, the writers try to make him be like he's the protagonist. He's really not. He's a lot of the problems in the show stem from him being selfish and trying to be a teenager again. Like, he's so creepy and weird. And Sue is just like keeping it real all the time. So I love Sue, and I love Sue. I don't have a bad thing to say about her. Sometimes she does problematic shit, but I don't care, because to me, she's the voice of reason. And you gotta shout out Jane Lynch, queer actress. Absolutely love her. She's probably the most iconic and successful person from this show. Like, this show wouldn't have done what it did without her in it, and literally nobody else can play Sue. Like, Jane Lynch is so talented. Like, she was absolutely the perfect person for this role.
I love Jane Lynch. I'm just not the biggest fan of Sue.
Why?
She has funny moments. I don't know. All the adults.
That's because you came in season 4 when everything went off the rails, and that's not who Sue. They tried to paint her as the villain when she's really not. Like, Glee lost its mind. Like,
yeah. So my viewpoint is very different because of coming in at 4. I came in when everyone else stopped.
Anytime I'm sad or need to laugh, I literally just go on YouTube and watch like best moments of Sue Sylvester and just laugh, because she's just the best. Her lines are so great, calling out mostly Shu on his bullshit.
Would you like to see some of her lines?
Yeah, let's do it. If you want to laugh, if you don't know what we're talking about, please like join us on this journey, Patreon members.
All right. While I get the screen share up, I will let the ads play. This video
started with Shu. Shu is the most problematic character in Glee.
Okay, well, again, you saw the outline. You could have said that Sue's not problematic.
I think she can be read as problematic. The most problematic character is Shu. He's so creepy.
He's next. Don't worry. You can check. Okay, so actually, I did not see him as creepy the first time and then I kept hearing everybody say that he's so creepy. I'm like, I did not care about him, so I didn't pay attention when he was on the screen.
And that's how it should have been. He should have been so, like, I don't need to pay attention to him. But he constantly kept getting centered and stuff, and it's like, this is not about you. Like, it was just so annoying.
But his whole storyline in the first season, I hated. Like, I hated his wife, Terry, I believe. She pissed me off. All the adults in the show really pissed me off, so I just did not pay attention to them.
Mrs. Pillsbury.
Yeah.
Emma, yeah. Emma was great until everything got way too serious with Emma, and then it got weird. Yeah. I love Kurt's dad, though.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. Let's talk about Shu.
Do we have to?
I mean, I kind of feel like we need to. Even though I don't like him. I
hate him. He is the most problematic character in the show. And again, like, Ryan Murphy very much tries to center Shu as like, oh, he's the good guy. He this and that. But he does so much shit. Like, he centers himself in everything. And it's like, this is a group of like high school kids who are trying to find their place, their community. And like, he constantly centers himself in like their world, and it's weird. Instead of like being a good teacher and like supporting them, he centers himself constantly, and he does it in super inappropriate ways. Like, there's that one episode in season 1, I think, where Glee Club gets to do the assembly, and he has them do this, like, I forget the song, but it's like this sexy, inappropriate dancing, and he's in it with his underage teenage kids.
Was that the song, the Push It song?
Yes, it's the Push It song. And it's like, why are you adult married man dancing with these minors in a sexually suggestive way. And he does it more than once in the show. Like, it's just creepy and, like, pedophily and, like, abusery. And it's just, like, and that's why I love Sue, because Sue calls him out for being a creepy weirdo and inappropriate with his students, which he constantly is. And it's just gross.
You know what?
So
Those things do happen in real life, which is stupid, because
and I'm aware of that, but, like, the writers center him as the good guy in these scenarios, and it's like, no, he's being extremely inappropriate with his students, and, like, please portray it for what it is, which is highly problematic, instead of making him the hero of the episode. That's the problem I have with it. Not that they're showing these things, but they're elevating him to the good guy protagonist, and they want you to root for him in this really inappropriate situation, and it's like, maybe that's why it's on Fox.
Theora.
See the Baptist Church, if you don't know what I'm talking about. They're super known for this kind of crap.
I think his storyline should have ended with him being on trial, and then everyone testifying against him.
That would have been
and
great.
then he gets put behind bars.
Personally, I think his storyline should have ended when the original cast graduated high school and we get less of Mr. Shu. Personally.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think.
Well, he came back for a reason.
It's just... No. We'll get there when we get to the why I stopped watching Glee. But I think he's constantly being centered as a main character, and it's like, why? This show is not really about you anymore. But he's hella problematic. And, like, he basically just wants to be Finn. And he's trying to, like, relive his high school glory days. And, like, okay, the discovery of Finn as a singer. Again, right off the bat, Shu being stupidly creepy. Finn is the football player. He's supposed to be the jock who also is an artist kind of deal. And he gets discovered by accident, quote unquote, I hope, because Shu just wanders into the boys' locker room. Shu, the Spanish teacher / Glee Club founder or whatever, just meanders into the minors' locker room where the football team is showering and, like, creeps on Finn straight up naked and showering and listens to him sing. And he, like, lingers there for, like, a hot minute while this minor is singing in the shower. Like, it's so creepy. Like, come on.
Like, this isn't bad because okay, let me get my thoughts out. So I'm about to relate this to a scene, but the scene that I'm relating it to isn't bad because it's not a teacher and a student. But it reminds me of that Pitch Perfect scene when Brittany sneaks into the shower and she's like, "What are you doing?" So that's just what reminds me of.
Okay, but they are both the same age, less creepy than your teacher without your consent. And, like, Finn doesn't know he's in there creeping on him. Like, it's just the creepiest. Like, it would be less creepy if, like, Kurt was in there because he got at a gym and needed to get something from his locker and heard Finn. Why was it Mr. Shu creeping in the boys' locker room? Like, and then, again, the writers are portraying it like, what a good thing. He found a star male singer. Like, no, it's like you're an adult creeping on children showering. Like, that is so weird.
I guess I just chose not to think about it too hard.
Because the writers don't frame it that way. They don't. They basically excuse every bad thing Shu does in the way they write and frame his character. And that's what drives me nuts about him. He's not a good person. Like, he's just not. He's very inappropriate with his minor students. And it's never portrayed that way. And the only person who calls him out is Sue.
Well, actually, there is another person. And we have
the one who calls him out the most consistently is Sue. Sue. From
Sue.
The beginning.
Sue and Shu. All right.
Anyway, I hate him. Do you have anything to say about Shu?
No, I chose not to. Because you
just hate
could see the problematic stuff. I just ignored him because I just didn't like him. So I have no words. A lot of this is just like I have no words for, which does not translate well for a podcast.
He is the worst. He just, again, that's him just centering himself. He does it all the time. It's very annoying. And, like, again, go Santana for actually calling him out on his bullshit, because very few people does, and he just constantly gets away with it. It's annoying.
He's very annoying. He's
very, very, very
Does
annoying.
anybody like him?
The hero. I don't know. If you like Shu, like, why? Why? He's not a good person. There are better adults in this show. See Kurt's dad. Probably the best adult in the show.
Yes.
We all need a Kurt's dad in our lives.
Is there a better adult?
No,
I think think of one.
He is the best adult. He is constantly supporting Kurt. Always. Like, he is the best adult in the show.
Yeah. He's such a great dad.
He's the best. Accepting. He is the best. I love him.
But
all right. I think that's enough Mr. Shu talk. Fuck that guy.
Yes, please. No more Mr. Shu. I'm so bored with him right now that I'm just him. Like,
okay, let's move on.
No. What do we want to do? Do we want to talk about how it foreshadows real life events? Or do we want to talk about what it sounds like in real life?
Do the foreshadowing. Because, like, Glee basically took on the role of The Simpsons, where The Simpsons ran for, like, decades. And essentially got to the point where, like, it was predicting crap that happened in the future, like a Trump presidency and things like that. And Glee foreshadowed, like, its own internal stuff, because there's a lot of fuckery that went on with the cast, the creators of this show. And it, like, predicted its own bullshit, which is wild. Yeah. There's some horrible things that happened with Glee that they predicted for their actors, and there was a lot of, like, sex scandals and hooking ups that happened with cast members, and just the writers put their lives on blast. It was really fucked up.
Yeah, they did that with Naya's boob job.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like, you're taking something that she was proud of her, like comfortable in her own skin, and, like, making it a negative thing. That's so wrong.
They were fucked up. And what's also fucked up, too, in, like, the casting of these characters, which always bothered me, is, like, Corey Monteith is, like, 30. And he was supposed to play, like, a 16-year-old. And it's like,
they do that a lot.
Why?
Though.
I hate when they do that. Especially because, like, not all the actors were in their 30s. Like, some of them were, like, young 20s, bordering teenagers, and it's like, this is really weird that you're doing.
Oh, well, speaking of, you want to talk Everything Sucks on Netflix, that age gap was ridiculous. Because that was, like, 13 and, like, 21, I think.
Yeah.
And it looks it. So
it does. It does.
It's really weird. I don't know who approved that.
Yeah.
But that's another
time. That was a good show, but yeah, the age gap between the leads was fucking weird, and there's no need for that. Like,
if they had a younger, if they replaced the older one with the younger one,
teenagers.
Yeah, it would have been a lot better. But that show was
weird. Yep, it was a good show, but that was weird. But this is weirder because it's like a lot of the characters are like that. Anyway, that's why I don't like watching high school TV shows, because it's, like, always played by adults, and it's like,
which I get, but it has to be young adults.
Yeah, like, get them in, like, I don't know, just
or you know,
why are there younger? There's younger actors. Just cast younger people, like, that are teenagers.
Because of
it's just dumb
legal stuff.
I know, but it's dumb.
And you have to deal with parents.
Do adult, but then they always make them do adult plot lines, and it's like, they're supposed to be 15. Like, yeah, it's just dumb. I like, who's the audience, really? The audience is really adults, not, like, the teenagers. I don't like it. I'm past, like, watching high school stuff, personally. If you're into it, no shade. I'm over it. Like, because they always make them do stuff that college kids do. I'm like, just put it in college. Why are we doing high school then?
Fair.
That's just me.
Oh, gosh. There are a lot of problematic stuff in Glee, but it just still makes me laugh.
And this part, like with it being unrealistic, like I'm fine with this part being like Hollywoodized because it is a TV show and like
Yeah.
it's fine. Like with them embellishing sets and like embellishing the music and the singing, like that's fine.
That's
I'm totally
supposed to
fine with that.
happen.
That's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be like fantasy. Like it fantasizes the television show and makes it unreal, which is okay with me. Like I'm okay with that part of the story that they those choices that they make, because like it would be weird on TV to watch what you just played. Like who's gonna want to watch that?
Yeah, it's nice to have those videos just to laugh at in your free time, but you definitely need the unrealistic of the music, because
Yeah, it's
some of
what
those are
makes
really
it
good.
it's what makes it theater-y, because they're like, you know, if we could do this is what we would love to do as the theater department. Like I appreciate that, and the fact that they call it out for being unrealistic in the show, like they're self-aware. They're like, we understand this is unrealistic, we're doing this for entertainment. Because like Sue, again, we had the clip where Sue's like, this is how much money your set would have cost, like how. So like they make fun of it, so it's
and those jokes are why I really love Glee, because I love when characters are self-aware of like the stupidity of the stuff they do.
And that's Glee for what it is. That's what it's supposed to be. It's a satire about itself. Like, yeah, this is what the Glee Club would love to do, and they're showing you that, but then being like, yeah, this is unrealistic. Like making fun of itself. That's at the core of what Glee really is. So like, yeah, those moments are really great. And it also showcases, like, all of the actors are very talented when it comes to singing, dancing, and doing their choreography and all that stuff. So it is nice to see, like, what that height of that could be for them through, like, these, like, crazy sets and stuff. Like, it gets crazier over time, but, like, it's okay. Like, for me, it's okay in the genre of what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about a lot of problematic stuff. Obviously, there's more. We can't get into everything.
Well,
We'd have to rewatch the show.
Do you have a favorite performance that they did? Or like a favorite song or anything?
The everything. I'll let you know at the end, because I need the video that we're gonna watch to help me.
Oh man. Okay, so I have a bunch of favorites, but one of my favorite songs they did was, I think it was the episode where Santana gets outed by Finn.
Oh,
and
that whole
it was at the time.
Rumor has it.
Yes, it was at the time where the treble tones were still a thing, which to me, I like them better than One Direction. I thought they were way better because, again, we got to hear more than Rachel Berry.
New Directions, not One Direction.
I say New Directions?
You said One Direction.
I meant New Directions.
It is harder.
So the treble tones, and it was the treble tones, which consisted of like Amber Riley as Mercedes, Naya as Brittany, not Naya, Heather, and I think some of the newer girls. I forget. Yeah, I think Sugar was in there too.
Yeah, Sugar was.
And they were led by one of the stupidest plot lines ever. Rachel's actual biological mom, who's played by Indina Menzel, who is like one of the greatest.
They sound so much alike, though.
She was the original Elphaba in Wicked. She was like in Rent. Elphaba? Like she's one of the biggest Broadway stars of all time. Iconic human being. She played Elsa in Frozen. Like she's iconic.
Yes.
And that's how much pull this show had, that it got crazy big stars.
That was in the season 1.
Yeah, they got her in the beginning. And Kristen Chenoweth was also in it, who played Glinda, the Good Witch, in Wicked. She's another like iconic These are like legitimate stars.
They had both of them, and it still pisses me off that they never put them together in a scene.
I know. Same. Like I would love to see them together.
So angry. I'm like, I know. And I think they were both in an episode where the kids sing Defying Gravity.
Yeah, man.
And I was just like,
to sing it. Rather than sing it.
Or just have them sing something together. Just actually say hi to each other, because it's just so weird to have them both there in the same episode and just like not say anything.
Okay, but like I have two favorite songs actually, now that I'm thinking about it more. Rumor Has It was one of them, because I love the way they did the Adele songs. All of the Adele songs were really great. This one
I didn't like Rolling in the Deep, but that's probably because I didn't like the characters who were singing it.
I like that song too. But this one I thought was better. And I like the way they overlaid like Naya with Amber singing together. They sound so fucking good together. They needed more songs. And just
oh my gosh,
the way it was choreographed.
Yes.
The two of them are my two favorite singers. But the way they choreographed it, and they have like Naya looking at like Heather during it, like I love the way that was done. The dancing, the singing, all of it. My second favorite that will always bring up fond memories to me is when Brittany and Santana were trying to figure out how they felt about each other. Like Brittany knew
Landslide?
Santana was still figuring it out. Landslide. Yes. Landslide. And that was in the episode with Gwyneth Paltrow. I forget what her character's name was, but she was like peace and love kind of like character who was like facilitating them communicating, and just it was very emotional the way it was like sung, and it was just so good.
That episode should be season 2, episode 16.
That whole episode is one of my favorite episodes. Yeah. Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. That was one of their best episodes ever, was the Fleetwood Mac episode.
I love that episode. I
love it.
Okay, so I love when the TikTok song and Brittany throwing up on Leah.
That was
good. And I love that she got to film that on her birthday.
That was good. I'll take that.
Hold on, I'm trying to think of what's the song called. River Deep, Mountain High.
Oh god, that song too. Again, the Naya Amber songs kill it. Those two together are so iconic. I love that song, River Deep, Mountain High. I bought that song on iTunes and like listened to it all the time. They're so
it was so good. Oh my gosh.
Yes, and like most of my favorite episodes are like I think season 1, season 2. The Britney episode was also fantastic.
Oh yes, that's it. All the like the Britney focused episodes are my favorite. Actually, I just remembered. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree, and what's amazing about that is that both Britney and Santana were just supposed to be characters with no lines. They were just supposed to be background characters, but because those actresses like acted their asses off, they got promoted to like speaking roles. And then we got these amazing episodes. They weren't supposed to exist, but those two like seriously worked their asses off. So like in a sense, like some characters got downgraded for absolutely no reason. These two got elevated for a very good reason. Like they worked their asses off and became speaking characters. And then we got their episodes are some of the most iconic episodes just because like those characters were so fun, especially yes. Brittany. Brittany was hilarious.
Brittany, well, okay, we'll get to her in a little bit. I can't wait to just scream about her because
I love Brittany.
But
a fondue one for two, like everything about her, sorry.
We'll get the scream. Don't worry, I have it. It's all in all caps. Let the screaming commence. We're gonna get there really soon. One of my favorite songs is "You Have More Friends Than You Know," and this is in season 4, so I don't know if you know it, but it's Melissa Marley wrote this song, and it's when Mr. Shu was being so rude to all of them, and you know what? Do you want to hear it? No? Okay, but you don't have to. You'll hear some of it. But it's such a great song, and Unique is in it, and Blaine and Sam, I believe. So it's like, I don't know. It's just everybody who, like, they were being, like, really rude to at the time. And it's just a very sweet song. About just you have more people around you. There's people who love you even when it doesn't seem like it, and it's just so very sweet, and I love it. Okay.
See, there's some good stuff about Glee. I promise.
There are good stuff.
It lost its mind and got problematic, and just had problematic elements from the beginning, like Sue. Sue was problematic too. But Sue was funny. Shu was not funny. He was just creepy.
I was writing Sue and Shu right next to each other, and it was like very confusing. I'm like, wait a minute, do you just spell Shu with Sue with an H? But no, there's a C in there too. Their names are so close together.
I know.
Did they do that on purpose or something?
Maybe.
Okay, so we've gone through quite a bit of problematic things, but I also found a video that's called Important LGBTQ plus Moments in Glee, and this is by Shannon, and there are some moments that I think are really important. Now, I'm going to put a trigger warning in front of this of stuff we might talk about and the stuff in this video. I might cry in it because there is some real stuff, so everybody be warned.
And like for context too, we were talking off mic, but like I compare the LGBTQ stuff that went on with Glee to like the L Word in the sense that it was novel at the time and a big deal because a big network was airing this at prime time, like prime time. It got the prime time slot, so like everybody was watching it. So all the subjects and characters they were showcasing, like you rarely saw this kind of character on a mainstream network. So it was a big deal that it even exists. But in hindsight, some things did not age well, just like the L Word. So just keep that context in mind for some of this stuff.
I don't even know what to say. My heart's so heavy right now with it. That was the roller coaster. It just kept going down and then a little up and then back down.
I mean, they did a good job of encompassing, again, a lot of different... Again, it became too self-aware, and it started just trying to tackle issues versus, like, using the characters to tell a story. So, like, with Kurt, there's a lot more examples with Kurt and his journey, like, telling his dad, first boyfriend, first homophobic bully that's a closet case, other bullies that are maybe closet cases, maybe not, just, like, weak men looking to, like, use their fists to express themselves kind of deal. There's a lot more examples with Kurt because that's what Glee started with, and you know, you can see the journey through Kurt versus like Unique comes in later and they're like, okay, let's use this episode to tell about like Unique real quick and then we'll like move on next episode. So it's like much more disjointed and like it felt more performative like as they went on. Not to say that the issues and the character stories were not important. It's just the way they chose to tell them was very disjointed and weird. And
they were more like, okay, you get this episode.
This is the trans
we're
episode.
done.
Like, basically, they would do stuff like that. And it's like, it felt disingenuous versus, like, having the character established and, like, seeing more of the progression of their...
Like, they also did that with Santana. Like, she got multiple episodes to figure stuff out.
Because she was there from the beginning. And, like, the Brittany Santana thing was... It started with an offhanded line between Heather and Naya, and that evolved into a, okay, let's actually explore this kind of thing.
Wait, so did they come up with that line? Like...
I can't remember if it was scripted or not, but it was supposed to be a joke where I forget what was going on.
We're gonna see it. Don't worry, we have it.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it started with that line in season 1, and like then the writers are like, let's see, let's explore as they were because again they were just supposed to be background characters when that line was delivered, and they're like, okay, maybe let's actually give them more screen time and like let that play out, and it turned out to be very interesting because you got to see it. Santana pre-post, like you got to see her evolution. Same thing with Brittany, who like again was more of a open book, but still like had a journey that progressed versus like plopping in almost like Tolkien characters and trying to tell a story very disjointedly to just like again mostly centered around this performance that's going to happen versus like a natural story where it became less character focused. That's really why I couldn't keep going with the show. I was like, what are we doing?
So why did you stop? Like, was there one reason?
There's many reasons. The biggest was, so I was very into the show. Like, I was big Team Britannia. Like, I was very invested in this show because it was novel at the time to like see queer people on primetime television, like portraying stories like that I could relate to. Like, you know, it wasn't the L Word, which if you've seen the L Word, it's the L Word's not realistic. Like, it's just that you don't just like go up to people randomly, they just happen to be gay and you like fuck them in a car. Like, that was basically the L Word. Everybody's queer and just like ready to go at any moment. It was like the weirdest show ever. It was nice because you got representation, but it was like unrealistic representation versus like this was more relatable because you had characters who were like, you know, in the small town America, quote unquote, trying to like navigate that with their families, with their friends, and they were trying to figure out the next steps of their lives. Like, I found a community here in Glee Club, but like, what happens after? And so for me, I was like, where they lost me was when they got to season 4, because at season 3, that was when like they were the main cast was mostly getting ready to graduate. This is a problem with high school shows, and this is where a lot of shows fail, is when you go from high school to beyond. And
they also did not start them in freshman year.
No, they start usually you start sophomore year. That's just how all high schoolers do this. You start sophomore year. So it started sophomore year, but then you had some characters who didn't graduate, like Brittany didn't graduate. Blaine was like a junior. So like not everybody was graduating, but like the cast we started with, which was Kurt, Mercedes, Rachel, Santana, Finn, Puck, I guess. Puck was weird because he kept like failing and kind of not graduating also. But like that, and Quinn, that was like the main cast we started with. So they were all graduating. And again, the beginning of Glee was mostly a satire that focused around these characters, and you saw them grow and develop, and then they're graduating. So for me, I was like, I thought they were going to do what normal television shows do, which is you follow those characters when they graduate in their next phase of life. And it's like, how did the Glee Club prepare them for what they're doing? Like Rachel, Kurt, and Santana are all going to New York together. I'm like, great, follow them and see what their life is like. But no, they spent way too much time in high school, and it's like the show never moved on. And I was like, what are we doing? And then they brought in all these new characters, like Marley and Jacob, was that the love interest? Mm-hmm. Which basically, Jacob was a combination of Finn and Puck. And then Marley was like Quinn and Rachel. So it's like they just recycled characters, gave them new faces, new like identities.
There was another character for Quinn. Marley wasn't Quinn.
But I meant like Marley was less of a loser than Rachel. Yeah. I'm just saying they've recycled plot lines, put new faces and new like subcategory like... Again, they became token characters. Like, Jacob was, like, black and Jewish. So now we had, like, black and Jewish plot lines we could explore through this character versus Marley, she was like Rachel and a Quinn hybrid, but with her own subgenre of stuff. So they were, like, again, becoming too issue-focused with the show and trying to, like, have in my mind, token characters to tell token stories versus playing out the ones you already established. And again, I don't know if that was so that they could be issue focused or so they can keep Shu relevant, because once they graduate, who cares about him anymore? Like, it's just they were stuck way too in high school for me. Okay, and sorry.
Shu wasn't supposed to come back. That's not
the thing. Huh? Shu?
Yeah, Shu. Finn stepped in and was the teacher, and Shu was going away for a job. Also, I loved Finn as the teacher. Like, he was, like, such a good mentor to Marley. I just like their scenes together. And then when Corey unfortunately died, the guy who played Shu agreed to come back.
Matthew Morrison.
Yeah. So that's why we have him again.
Yeah, but it's like, we wouldn't need any of that if we didn't spend so much freaking time with the Glee Club in high school. And the episode that really pissed me off the most was in one episode in season 4. So in season 3, they spent all this time establishing all the couples. So all the couples finally got together. You had Finn and Rachel. You had Blaine and Kurt and Brittany and Santana. They all get together and then the graduation happens. Then in one episode, in the beginning of season 4, they break all of them up in one episode. And I was like, what is the point of this? This was so stupid. And like, they kept having episodes where like, they kept coming back to high school. I'm like, these people live thousands of miles away. Why? Like Sue points out, she's like, do you guys have teleporters? Like, why do you keep coming back here? Like, just the way they started telling stories was absolutely stupid. And I was like, I cannot keep watching this because there's no substance to this anymore. It's just, we're trying to tell token stories. And it was just terrible. I couldn't. That was at the point where they were trying to maximize like iTunes profits. Yeah, I got some way through season 4 and then I just couldn't anymore because I was like, this is not the show that I liked. It just destroyed everything I liked about the show and I just couldn't anymore. The Marley, Jacob stuff all seemed so forced and it was just like we're repeating the Quinn, Rachel, Finn, Puck triangle just with 2 people. And like they brought in, there's some other white dude there too. So they created a love triangle with Marley. Sure.
We don't talk about him. We do not.
It was just like, what was the point of this? It was just dumb. I just couldn't. It was dumb. And then, like, didn't they make Emma more of a character? And, like, she got more crazy, and then there was her trying to marry Will. It's just, like, it was
They do get married.
Yeah, but, like, she had, like, cold feet at one point. Like, it was a back and forthy kind of, like, plot line for a while, was my point. It was just terrible. It just got really terrible.
Okay, and so again, I started in 4. So
I'm sorry.
Again, and I watched for Melissa, so as long as she was in it, I was fine. I didn't care about any of the couples when they broke up. I didn't know who they were.
You weren't invested in them.
Yeah, so, and now, like, you have the same opinion as a lot of people, so I always feel wrong for liking the show, because I don't have the same experience.
And that's valid.
But I loved it, because I love Melissa, but again, we'll get to that later. Once I started watching the show again, when Heather left at the end of 4, I got really sad. And then I was like, okay, but Melissa's still in it. And so is Naya. So halfway through 5, they just get rid of them, which we'll talk about again later. So Melissa's gone. I'm like, all right, we got Santana. That's it. That's all I'm watching for. Santana leaves at the end of 5. There's literally no reason for me to watch 6, and they start over with brand new characters, except they bring in Kitty as well. Back in.
So annoying.
And I think Unique comes back as well. But so it was just like too many changes, and they done the changes 3 times, because halfway through 5 they go fully to New York, I believe. And then 6, they're back in the high school. And this is where I'll try to tell you what happens in 6. So they go back to the high school. They run the Glee club, but they're going. Oh, they as in the group, like what wasn't Finn? Rachel,
Quinn. Who was left? Rachel, Quinn.
Oh God, no! I think it was just Rachel and Kurt. Kurt probably. Kurt and
that would make
Blaine.
sense. It sounds like they were the protagonists at that point, just those 2.
Yeah, and then I think
I didn't watch it.
Sue starts at Glee Club or something. I don't remember.
Sue's been trying to start Glee Club since the beginning. That's funny.
Yeah. And then Santana comes back, and so does Brittany. I'm trying so hard to not flip between the real people's names and
I know, it's hard.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. They get engaged and they get married. Sue is obsessed with Kaitlynn and gets them back together by locking them in an elevator. And then they have a double wedding. And Beast of storylines in season 5, so I don't know what happens in season 6. There's new kids. They do some storylines, and then I don't know what happens. And then at the end, they bring everybody back except Melissa for the final scene.
Fantastic.
She was too busy flying.
I know, she's too busy being Supergirl and actually having a good show.
Yeah, she went on from that show, and she's like, yeah, I'm just gonna be better than what this is right now.
Yeah, it was terrible.
So yeah, season 6, I was like, there's no reason. It took me everything in me not to just skip to the Britannia episodes and scenes.
You're stronger than me. I only watched that in a YouTube clip.
I mean, I was like, I'm way too invested in this now. And you had more years, so I was just like binging it. I did other things while watching it. So I was like, play a game on my phone or something. So it's not like I was just doing that. I don't think I could do it.
No.
But to your point of them just trying to sell music, I think you can tell in 4 they were doing a lot of like popular songs.
Yeah, no, they were going through what was top 10 hits at that time on the radio versus in the beginning when you go, it's more show tunes because theater. Yeah. And then it became, how do I rebrand what's already popular right now and make money? Hence, like, literally we watched that song with like, I forget who it was, Rachel and whoever in the bathroom singing. The only reason they were singing that song is because that was a top 10 hit at the time that aired, and they were trying to resell it as a Glee cover.
And I think that was in season 2, actually, or season 3.
That was like 3, 4.
It's definitely not 4 because she's in high school.
Oh yeah, I think 3, maybe 2. I don't know, but like again, that's where it started. They slowly got away from show tunes into what is popular on the radio right now and how do we make money off of it. And again, they were just centering storylines around these songs that don't make any sense in the show. It's just to make money. And like that, Glee got too full of itself for that reason, and then trying to solve the world problems with each episode, and it lost itself. It's supposed to be a satire, and it took itself too seriously, and it just lost itself. And the writers didn't talk to each other.
Different shows within that show. Yeah. And it all depends on when you come in. You know, most people start with season 1. Maybe I wonder what my views would have been like if I started with season 1. But,
probably like mine and everybody else who started with season 1.
You know, I'd rather just like the show.
And that's totally fine. Like again, it's a completely, by the time you get to season 4, it is a completely different show. It's not what Glee's supposed to be anymore. Mm-hmm. It's more like just a regular drama at that point that has singing in it.
Yes, that is very accurate.
Drama.
Because there's like this whole episode with a school shooting, and that episode got to me just because Melissa was crying. You know, I'm like, I don't want her to be hurt. That's basically what it was. But yeah,
I will say speaking of that episode, one of the things that I did like later and throughout the show was like you mentioned earlier, Sue's relationship with Becky. And Becky's storyline in general, I really liked. And hers kept evolving past, like, the inception of the show. And I really did enjoy that character and her dynamic with Sue. It humanized Sue, but also, like, she was an important character that kept growing over time that I really, really liked.
And they didn't put her in a box.
No, they didn't. They let her be a full-fledged fucking person. And anytime somebody tried to put her in a box, Sue would call them out on it. They're like, why are you giving her special treatment? Like, she's a person like everybody else. Like, mm-hmm. And like, the actress that played Becky was amazing. Like, I really enjoyed Becky. I thought she was really great. And I thought the writers, for once, handled a sensitive topic, potentially, to people very, very well. And they just let her be. They just let her be a teenager. Like, it was great. I really enjoyed that. A character I absolutely hated was Jacob, the fucking reporter, because he got very pervy, sexual assaulty, stalkery over time in the name of the news, and just he became just like this outrageous character versus like a person over time as they wrote him. And
so far, I don't typically like the characters that he plays. He also went on to be in Wizards of Waverly Place. And I don't like his character in that either. He just, the characters he's given is just not great. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, no shade to the actor. I don't like the way, he, in the beginning, was much better. They made him more of a caricature than a person as time went on. And he just got really annoying and stalkery and stuff. And he always got away with everything as a character. Like, the writers that's what I mean. The writers picked and choose their battles, and some stuff they just wrote off as whatever when it was hella problematic and they should have focused on it and just, Yeah, he's one of them.
We're getting into characters now, which I think is a good place to stop this part.
All right.
And we can pick up actually screaming about the things that we love in the next part. So we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
When we talk about what we love.
Next time on Glee. And with that, we've been Big Gay Energy. If you like this episode, check out all our other episodes right here on YouTube. Please leave a comment below, and subscribe for more amazing, super gay content.
If you'd like to support us, check out our merch store, or join our Patreon for early access to episodes, exclusive content, and so much more.